All right, this is the news section. This is take two. My microphone's been being weird, so we're gonna try again.
Yes.
So some news, man. I'll tell you why I was giggling in the intro after you tell me yours.
All right. Sad
Wait,
news.
I'm gonna use my psychic powers. I bet it's something about Nintendo.
It is. It is. Once again, Nintendo has delayed the release of the new Zelda game that was going to come out on the Wii U. It's still coming out on the Wii U, but now it's coming out in 2017 and will also release on the NX. So we're talking at least March before we're going to see it.
All right, so not a good time for Nintendo right now. That sucks.
No, their profits are down 61%. The Wii U has only sold. Well, here, let me give you some benchmarks. The Wii, remember the Wii, good system, very
Oh yeah,
popular. Sold over 100 million units, right?
yeah.
GameCube, less popular, less successful, 22 million mark. How many Wii U's do you think have sold?
Um, 15,000
10,
million.
10 million units.
Whoa.
So a tenth of what the Wii sold. It's really just failing hard. Uh, and again, I don't know why. Such a good. We just need more listeners. We could have stopped this because
Yeah.
you and I have both testified how great. I've got a PlayStation 4 and a Wii U. I still play the Wii U way more than the PlayStation 4 because a lot of the games I would play for the PlayStation 4 I can play on my computer.
Yeah. I don't get it, man. Well, I wish it did better. I mean, the games that actually use it well, I think they're great. And have you had a chance to play that Star Fox yet?
No, I've purchased it. I'm waiting for my brother to come out so he can co-pilot with me.
Okay. Well, I know that they use something like that, don't they? They kind of manipulate that.
Yeah, it's an interesting system where it's a takes some getting used to from what I've read, but when it clicks, it's really fun.
Well, I don't know. I guess hope the next one does better. But anyway, mine is pretty hilarious, and you can also, if we're playing the drinking game of, are we sociopaths? Go ahead and take a shot because this one is hilarious. It's called Dead by Daylight. Have you heard about it before? We talked about it last.
I hadn't, but since we tried last time, I've watched a gameplay video of it, and I don't know if hilarious is the word. Maybe disturbing.
Yeah, this is like right there on there. I research stuff like this, right? And so I was hoping, I was like, oh, I can't really harm you, but this one is right in the line. We don't have any research on something like this where you play a serial killer. Okay, so if you liked old horror films, like Jason and Freddy Krueger, that kind of thing, it lives up to those kind of tropes, but especially the Jason one because there's four. It's a 5-player game. 4 survivors, 1 horrible person, and possibly a sociopath playing the person.
Right.
Because as you're playing, so there's 4 people and they're trapped inside of this kind of junkyard, right? And they're trapped in by walls walls, of course, walls, but doors as well, and they're mechanical doors. So, but the killer has turned off all the generators. So you start the game and it's just you and 4 other people or 3 other people, and you're just terrified. It's at night. And it's called Dead by Daylight because that guy's fitting to kill you all. And he walks a little faster. He has a butcher knife type mechanism. It's a huge
it's like a big
cleaver type thing. And he's got the hockey mask thing with teeth in it. It looks creepy. And his whole thing is he's just trying to kill you all. That's his whole thing.
Right. And he's got supernatural hearing, so if you're messing around, the game will show you where the sound's coming from. So it's pretty easy to track you down.
Which is exactly the point of those old games because you'd be walking through the woods and it'd be like and you're like, oh, and you turn around and the killer would be coming towards you. It's hilarious because that's how it was in the games. It'd have to be, at least if you had to buy into that fiction of that being possible. So whenever not only can you hear it, like little twigs or them opening doors or starting a generator or fiddling with that electrical cord, but you can also an indicator comes on your screen of what direction it came from. So you're like, oh, I'm on to you. So you're just terrified of making any, and you're just huddling around places. And it was pretty fun looking because when you're the survivor, because it's the third person camera, right?
Right.
And so it as you're creeping around, you can see up and over the obstacles you're hiding behind. So you can see the killer kind of going, ugh, stalking around looking for you. And you're like, oh God, you're just waiting there. And because if you move, you might step on a twig, you might bump into something and knock it off the edge. Like, you just don't want to move. And then you hear people scuttling around behind him. And he turns around, and then you scuttle. Like it's just terrifying. And the funny part is too, as you're running, I watched a gameplay video. As this guy was running, he and other survivors did this too, or other people, humans, I guess. Or as they're running, they look over their shoulder because you want to see if the guy's behind you, because he's slightly faster than a survivor. You need to know how close he is, right? Am I about to die or not? So the people are like running and they keep looking behind him, like all terrified from the hunter's point of view, and it just looks hilarious. It looks a little creepy because you're slowly catching up to him. You can
frantically throwing garbage in the way, like knocking over piles of wood and stuff, trying to slow the hunter down. And
because just like in the movies, right? He can't jump. Jason never like vaulted a fence to kill someone. He should have, but they kind of just.
So if
like,
someone like knocks something down, you have to either go around or you just have to like hack your way through it. So it buys them a little bit of time.
Exactly, a little bit of time, because
it doesn't seem to help. Like, it didn't. That whole 20 minutes, I never saw them actually win.
No. Oh, exactly. Oh man, and but not only that, okay,
kicking and screaming as he throws them over there, because like one hit and you're limping, and the second hit and you're crawling away.
Yeah. And you can actually be, if another person comes and helps, they can save you.
Yeah, you kept mentioning that. I never saw anyone try. Like, why would you try? Like, there's a
horrible
guy chasing you. You're crawling away. No one's gonna intervene with that. You're just like, oh man, I hope that will buy me some time to start the generator. Maybe I can get away.
Yep.
Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna run up and be like, hey, hold on, time out, timesies. I'm gonna do some first aid.
It's got to be. I don't know. I imagine. Here's what I would do as the killer. I would hack him a couple times and let him just start crawling and lead me to the others.
Everyone,
right? Because you gotta. Take like 3 drinks, because what the hell? But not only that,
an extra drink when Jeremiah says, "Here's what I would do if I were the killer."
Oh man! But seriously, don't Google my name and serial killer. No, but you get extra blood points, which is like how you purchase things in the game by like doing sick stuff. So like you could just kill someone by hacking them up, but there's also like hooks throughout the level, like little meat hooks that you can hook them on.
Right, and you have to like hang them up on the hooks, and they're struggling. They're trying to pull themselves off the hook, but it just makes them bleed out faster.
And you can get away, but it's an RNG thing.
Chance.
Yeah, and so that's how you do it, right? You kind of sacrifice them is what it's called, and or you can just hack them up, or you can. There's a couple other ways. I can't remember the other ones, but whenever you hook them up, put them on the hook. It's like. Oh man, it's so weird. The guy who was playing the killer did it as the last person, so you just gotta sit there and wait for him to die because you're making sure they don't fall off the hook.
Just kind of.
So you're just staring at this person struggling as themselves on a hook. It's a little weird for me.
Yeah, and to give you guys some behind the scenes footage for how the show is made, we don't really do a lot of preparation, but we'll start the call before we click broadcast and just kind of like, hey, how you doing? How's your day? And so we're doing that, and we're looking for news items, and all in the background I hear Jeremiah go, oh, he's cracking up and then going, oh no. Like it's alternating between horror and then just hilarity. And I'm like, what's going on? You're like, oh no, I'll tell you on the show. And it's very concerning now that I've seen the footage that you were watching. Like I thought you were watching like a sports game. Like there was this attachment of like, oh, I hope my local sports team wins.
Oh no, I was cackling at murder most foul. But some funny things were happening. Like this one, like as he was playing the hunter, he's looking around for people and he keeps hearing these little, pops, and he's turning around and looking, and he's narrating the entire time. And finally, he sees someone. I'm like, oh no, he sees him, and then he starts walking towards, and they're running and like looking behind him all frantically, like you would if there was a killer behind you, just terrified. And he's just slowly catching him. They're throwing shit in his way, and he's just kind of pushing it aside and still hunting him down. And I'm like, oh my god, no, what are you gonna do? And then he hits this girl one time, and you get one free hit. Like they hold their stomach and they're bleeding and they start limping, but you still move just as fast. So he hits her, and I was like, oh no, and he hit her, and I was like, oh god. And so she's running, and at some point she goes, fuck it. Like this guy's been on her case for like, I don't know, a good minute now, just stalking her. And she's just terrified. There's a point where she's running straight and she stops, turns to the directly right, and just starts running that way. And I was like, where's she going? And she runs around a building to where one of her other friends was hiding. and it's that old like adage of you only have to run faster than your friends to outrun a bear, right? So she like hits the guy, and then you can see him, he's crouching behind this little dumpster, and as she turns the corner, his little avatar still crouching, kind of slowly shuffles his feet as he turns sideways, obviously looking, and his friend supposedly, and this horrible killer turns the corner And he's just like, oh shit! And he tries to run, but she like runs in front of him and clips him off. And so then he's hunting her friend, and I was just like, oh, that's such a dick move. Oh man, because you're just like, I need to survive. F that. I'm gonna bring my friend into the mix. Maybe he can buy me time.
Oh, but no one does. No one ever does.
Why would you? Yeah, I would just be like, oh, you freak, you piece of crap. But anyway, yeah, that game just from that simple mechanic of hunting people down and the sound and stuff. Some hilarious gameplay came out. I was just like, oh no, because like one of them, because I didn't know he could hit him on hooks, and he sliced the guy, and the guy falls down, and he's crawling away. And I'm like, oh god, this is horrible, because there's like a blood streaks behind him, and I was like, what is the fun of this? This isn't fun. But then he grabs the guy by his pants, pulls him up, and throws him over his shoulder, and I'm like, what is happening? And I see his little feet kicking, his
little legs are kicking.
he's like, because you can hit buttons to struggle, and you might get out, and so they're like, and they're kicking wildly, and he's just kind of. Same pace, just kind of walking towards this corner. I was like, what is this over here? And it's a hook, and I was like, oh no. And he throws him on it, and I'm like, oh god, no. But then the guy's commenting while he's doing it. He's like, yeah, so this.
I know, he's so deadpan. He's like, yeah, you get more points when you hang people on hooks. It's the way to get the most points, but you get fewer points when you just murder them. So I'm gonna murder this girl and see how many points that gets me.
He's saying words like murder. So just the whole, like, I don't know, it's like that gallows humor or like death kind of dark humor that I guess I have. That it's funny.
Yeah, it's pretty good. All right. So my next news item, I don't know how to follow that. Okay, so have you heard of Hatsune Miku?
Best friends.
Okay.
No, I
don't. She's a virtual pop idol, which is made for this Japanese company called Future Media. It's called Vocaloid, and they basically make these little virtual idols to like showcase their vocal like music software.
Mm-hmm.
You probably would recognize her if you saw her. She's got like kind of a schoolgirl outfit, and then these really long blue ponytails.
Don't all Japanese girls?
Yeah, you know her. Yeah. Hatsune Miku. Like she's even if you don't follow the company, she's just kind of become all over the internet somehow. Where here I'll link you her picture so you'll know who I'm talking about. But anyway, I just watched this video of her in concert in Seattle, and it's really weird because people were super into it. So, do you see who I'm talking about?
Did you send me a link?
Yeah, look on your Facebook.
Okay. Okay.
So this girl. So what they do is they put a translucent projection screen in the middle of the stage, and then they have a human backing band on the sides of the stage, just like on guitar.
Uh-huh.
And then she's in the middle, and it's just a hologram of her singing. Like they're not pretending it's a real person. Like everyone in the audience knows this is just a computer singing to them, but they are losing their minds. They're all waving glow sticks and like chanting. Like the energy in this concert is like any live performance I've ever seen, but it's an anime schoolgirl computer projection doing it, and it's all in Japanese. Nobody even knows what they're listening to. There's no translation, there's no subtitles. She's just singing in Japanese these J-pop songs, and people are just losing their shit over this. They love it.
What? Japan, what the fuck? Japan is so weird.
Yeah, that's what I said. But this is in Seattle. Like
what? I missed that.
Yeah, they've been doing these concerts in Japan for since 2009. But this one just came to Seattle, and people are losing their shit over it. Like, I don't know what the psychology is going on here, but you know, like we can connect with the energy of a performer, and it's kind of like this symbiotic relationship between the crowd and the performer. Like, it turns out. It's like those experiments they did with like little ducks where they just put faces on things that kind of look like ducks and they bond with them.
Yeah.
It's like that. We just see a human face and we're like, I feel an emotional connection right now with those ones and zeros. And they're just really getting into it.
This is a little girl, though. This is weird.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. That's here. I'm gonna link you the concert so you can see like the energy here. I'll put this in the Facebook group too. But it's crazy. It's weird. It's a weird thing. I feel like I would go to this concert just to see it happen because what is going on right now? Maybe you just have to be in the room. Maybe it's just one of those things where the crowd's energy is so strong that it doesn't matter what's happening on the stage.
I guess. I don't know, dude. Like, yeah, I mean, like anything else, getting into something when they talk about, oh yeah, this is weird. When they talk about, people being immersed in stuff, it's a voluntary activity. You can have it happen on accident, just like, if you're at this concert, you probably aren't thinking to yourself, I'm making a voluntary action to become immersed in this.
Mm.
But it does take a certain buy-in.
Yeah.
That's the part I'm confused about here, is the buy-in.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are into J-pop in the States. I mean, it's not, J-pop and K-pop are kind of, they're not mainstream, but they're not quite fringe yet either. They're kind of in the middle. So I guess if you get enough fans in a room of anything, it's going to get pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people would say the same thing if they saw me watching esports, and I freak out whenever something happens. I'm like, oh, holy shit, this guy just, I took whatever.
Right, or when we went to that MMA fight when you came out to Denver, I was like, right. I do not understand why people are very excited and everyone else was just having the time of their lives. So there's a fandom investment that I think takes place here. But you can see, like, she made a guest appearance on The Late Show with Letterman. Like, he's talking to this hologram of her and then just interviewing her.
What?
Yeah, like, it's happening. It's a thing that's happening. It's like Skynet.
That's all I want to say about it.
Like, I guess when Skynet happens, it's going to come through a cute Japanese schoolgirl, and we're going to just cheer as they take over.
What is going on, people? I mean, I'm cool with, like, everyone having their own thing. That's cool. There's a point where you got to stop and look at yourself and go, what the fuck am I doing? Like, those times in your life where you just ask yourself that. But I don't. Whenever somebody, I would be alarmed if anyone came and saw me doing something and then looked at his friends and went, this is fucking happening right now, right? Whatever I'm doing, like if I'm
right. Like this is one of those times where I feel old. Like I asked somebody younger than me about this, and I was like, what is Hatsune Miku? And she says, she's a Vocaloid, she sings and dances, but she's not real. She's a software program and a hologram, and all her songs are written by people on the internet. And that's where I was like, okay, I'm so confused right now.
Weird, dude. I don't know, dude. I never really.
I feel like my dad. I feel like trying to explain video games to my dad right now.
Yeah, he's like, why don't you just go outside and do that thing? And you're like, I don't know, because it's fun to sit in here, like a farming simulator game.
Yeah, but like to hear Letterman say, our next guest is a computer-generated Vocaloid personality from Japan. It's like, well, it's 2016, folks. This is the world we live in.
This is fucking happening. That's crazy, man. Well. Yeah. Oh, my news item. Besides the murder, sorry, I got a little distracted. Is the heck? We're having technical difficulties today, David. That's what's going on. PAX East happened.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard about that.
Big gaming
convention. Yeah, quite a bit went on, dude. This is the age of the VR, virtual reality, man. We talked about it last time. Now they released Hitman Go for it, which is going to be, who knows, another game, dude. Actually, it's another game that would be a little creepy if you're in VR. You like stalking behind people and you strangle people out. I was just thinking as we a minute ago, I was like, what would that game Dead by Daylight be like with VR? Good God! Like, I like to be the rational researcher, right? Like the guy who at conferences or in conversations in general is like, settle down, people. This is probably not going in virtual reality. Dead by Daylight would have me concerned. I don't. Because if you're just like walking around and you're stalking people and then murdering them and the graphics are great and you're like just loving it, I don't know. There's a point where you're like, I guess in real life I could like this too. It seems like. Here's the thing. Daydream. No. Here's
like the one reason that we're not serial killers is because we've never really given it a good try. We're like, it's like eating your vegetables. No. You're like, well, you don't know until you've tried.
No. Yeah, well, actually, there's a lot of people who think that's what's funny is if you have like a fetish or something, or like some kind of something you're into that is really deviant. Like a lot of people do think that. They're like, oh, you're just one blank away from this. Like I had a friend who wasn't deviant, but he had a different lifestyle than me. He was homosexual, and he always told me the only difference between a straight person and a gay person is a six-pack. And I was like, I realize you think that. But I've been shit-faced drunk, and I've never wanted myself some penis. It just doesn't come into my mind. I see how you can think that that's normal because we normalize our way of thinking. But the same thing with these video games. Okay, so my big defense of video games is people are good at understanding context. Like if you ask someone who just played a football game if they're good at football in real life after they're done, they're like, oh no, I can't really play. It's a video game, right? Or
Right.
if you murder a bunch of people in real life, but then you simulate an actual injury, like someone who needs help, they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, it's a whole different situation. In the video game, it's all joking and fun. Like you get a headshot and everyone, but here, I hope everyone's friends laugh. I hope it's just not mine. But here, so the joke is, or the distinction is, oh, well, this is very far detached from reality. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in virtual reality and you're murdering people, and that context is much thinner, that protective kind of, I don't know, that's just according to the current theory, or at least my current theory, as one of is, yeah, I don't know, that would be concerning for me. That might be my old grandpa thing, where I'm like, when I'm like 50, I'm gonna be like, it's this virtual reality murder simulators, but kind of I should be worried about. Maybe not.
Well, speaking of untimely death, do you remember when we were in college and we played this game where you were a god and you could be a good god or a bad god, and you had little pets that would go and like be your avatars on the world, and they could either help or harm the people. That black and white game. Well, that company that made that game, Lionhead Studios, is officially out of business. It's been canceled.
Oh man.
They were purchased by Microsoft, and as of today, they have shut the whole studio down.
Thanks.
Yes. They also are responsible for the Fable franchise. They did all the Fable games.
Oh, meh.
Yeah.
That was one of those that came out and people were really excited about, and so was I. I was like, oh, it sounds like it's going to be really good. And they're like, oh, you can do anything, and when you become evil, and I was like, oh, that's fun. Character looks different. They're like, yeah. And like, and you can do anything. You can do swords and sorcery both at once if you want. And I was like, mind blown, because rolls
Yes.
are a thing, which we're going to be talking about. But then I played it and I was like, this is just a big ball of meh. It's just meh.
Yeah.
The quest wasn't really compelling.
I played Fable, and I played Fable 2, and then, that franchise kind of lost me. There was like Fable 3 and Fable Heroes and Fable The Journey and Fable Anniversary, and meh. Really, I'm going to mourn the loss of Lionhead Studios because Black and White was such an interesting game.
Yeah, it was. And it teaches you something about yourself. That people are only as nice as they have to be. Which I learned, by the way, in teaching, David. I'm starting to get that
You learning
teacher
that?
hate. Yeah, man. The fuck? Okay, so it's the end of the semester, and this girl has not come to class at all in like the last.
This
I
is
don't know,
relevant
since-
because in your college classroom, you are the god of that room.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's what I mean. Yeah. So, and I'm the nicest dude. Like at the beginning, I'm like, listen, nobody wants to be here. I get that. Just be cool, okay? Like, don't obviously check your phone in front of me. If you got a message or something, check it real quick. Don't be surfing the internet.
Yeah, don't be an asshole, right? Like,
Just don't be an asshole. And if you're using a laptop, fine. I realize things are going to come up, but don't just stare at it for any. Let's say there's a 30-second rule. You can't stare at your monitor for more than 30 seconds unless you're typing a note.
Yeah.
How about that? We'll call it.
You can't give students any kind of freedom.
I know, that's the deal. Because I was like, let's just call it the "don't be an asshole" rule. Pretend that I'm just a regular dude teaching a class that doesn't like it when people are mean to me, and I can sit and any rational
Pretend that
person.
you're not a rude person, and that I'm not a rude person, and we can interact like goddamn humans.
And turns out that was a mistake. So this girl, she's like, oh, hey, well, I was really sick. Oh man, it's really bad. And I'm like, so far I'm this nice god, right, from Black and White. And I'm like, hey, I help people out all the time. Well, how can I help? She's like, well, I have literally no assignments turned in. Oh man, can you tell me what the assignments are so I can turn them in? And I'm like, okay. First of all, there's a thing called a syllabus. What the fuck? Second of all, you haven't come to class at all. I don't know you, bitch.
It's probably all online too, right? Like you could just go to the class website.
Yes, of course. It's on a Blackboard. What the hell? I literally told her in that conversation. I was like, listen, just don't fuck with me, and I'm not gonna be upset. But yeah, I'm a failure ass. That's gonna happen because what the hell, man? I just told you don't be disrespectful, and then you come in the last day. Oh, you little shit! Like I turned into that bad god, that benevolent, or from benevolent to malevolent.
Yeah, and
'Cause-
inevitably playing black and white, that's what I learned about human nature, is that the longer you go in with good intentions, the more likely you are to just fling villagers across the ocean and see how many times you can skip them like rocks.
yeah, because there's such a contrast between your kind behavior and then them taking advantage of you. You're like, whoa, you're taking advantage of me? I'm being like super fucking nice here. Look at all the stuff I've done for you. What the hell? And now you're gonna come.
God, I
Yeah.
could destroy you. Don't you know that? And then after a while, that question turns into, you should know that. I should remind you. Everyone drink.
It does, and that was one of the things people talked about that game all the time, how they played it. And same thing with me, man. That's how teachers become salty, man. I was like, and everybody calls me Professor Bean, and I'm like, I'm not Professor, bitch.
I'm not even an adjunct. I'm just a freaking undergrad because I'm a freaking grad student because this is American education now. We try and cut corners on costs as much as possible.
It's weird, dude. It's weird being in charge of what people learn about a given subject. I'm like, I hope this is enough.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. Can you even wrap your head around that idea? Being an educator.
Being solely responsible for everything they learn about a given subject over the course of 4 years, I can only imagine.
I can only imagine. Yeah. Well, let your imagination run wild. But anyway, so that sucks about the company.
Yeah.
But I got some good news.
Rest in peace, Lionhead. What's the good news?
Good news is Star Wars Battlefront has a free trial coming up for Star Wars Day.
Let me guess.
4th.
May the 4th?
That's right. Free PC trial. I'm not sure if this comes out on consoles, but the PC Master Race has a free day coming if they want it.
We should play just to celebrate the 4th. Or we
Yeah,
should play Star Wars The Old Republic. We should play some Star Wars game on May the 4th.
Definitely. And it's also my son's birthday, so that's pretty cool.
Good timing.
Yeah.
Did you do the math on that before you impregnated your wife?
You're damn right, dude. I had a calculator in hand, and I was like, honey, we need to make this happen.
How long is the average gestation period? Doesn't matter. We'll induce.
Yep. I brought her straight to the hospital. I'm like, we're inducing. You're only 4 weeks in. Shut up.
It's happening.
But yeah, it was total happen chance, and what a happy mistake.
Yes.
The birthday, not the kid.
Although
getting away my gaming.
Oh, yes. Good. Well, yeah, we'll have to do some Star Wars-y stuff. Any listeners that want to be playing Star Wars with us on that day, get on Facebook. We'll organize something. That could be fun.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea, David.
Speaking of movies, they have announced a new Lara Croft for the Tomb Raider franchise. So you know how Tomb Raider got a reboot in a couple 4 years ago now? 3 years ago?
Yeah.
With the new Lara Croft, a new kind of younger reboot of her. Well, as that plays out, turns out Angelina Jolie is not as similar to that new Lara Croft that we're used to seeing. So they've revamped. I don't know if this is why they did it, but it falls in a timely manner because Hollywood has just cast a new Lara Croft too, and it's Camilla Luddington.
Camilla Luddington.
You might know her from Ex Machina. She played Alicia Vikander there.
I do not. Oh. Oh yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, she really has that kind of new Lara Croft look to her. I'm pretty excited to see how she does it.
That's crazy. Yeah, she was great in that movie.
Yeah, she's a pretty acclaimed actress from even just that one movie, and she's been in other stuff too. That's where most people know her.
What? She has? I thought she was like just a new person on the screen.
She was in The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Okay.
But yeah, she's not done a lot. But I am, so looking forward to that. Any Tomb Raider fans who I was never a fan of the franchise before. I was never a fan of the movies before. But now that I'm on board, I'm excited to see how they do it.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I'll be damned. I don't have any more news items, David. PAX East, go check all that out. There's a lot that came out. Man, what do I even talk about that?
Yes.
Geez, okay, so there's a stream. If anybody's not familiar with Twitch, there's a stream that goes on. And I was watching that in the background of a lot of my work. But, I mean, and hell, just a lot came out, man. Video games in general, I'm so excited about how big they are now. Like, Twitch is a thing. The fact that we have these huge conferences that, like, mainstream TV's going over to. Oh, did you hear about this? Here's the Storm was made someone actually in the Facebook feed posted this. That's where I saw it. Here's the Storm. No, Dota made it on the top 10 playlist that ESPN does for every day. I'm pretty sure it's been a while since I watched ESPN, but yeah. So it was like showing these baseball plays a basketball play, and it was like number 6 from Dota 2, and then they showed it this guy making a killer play. It was pretty crazy. Isn't that weird?
It is. We're in a beautiful time. And one more kind of crazy thing out of Japan. Speaking of music, have you heard of baby metal?
What? No.
All right. So here's the concept. Tell me if you're on board. It's a death metal band, right? But
Yeah.
3 Japanese adorable schoolgirls are doing it.
I mean, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're called baby metal, and they also have been kind of touring the United States lately. They're becoming kind of this thing where I don't know if just people are excited about the novelty of it, but they are. Death metal is not my genre, so I haven't actually seen them perform. But I do like the concept of just like, hey, we're a death metal band, also Japanese schoolgirls, so why not? But here's the weird thing. Nintendo just announced and just released a trailer of there's going to be a new power-up in Mario Maker that changes you into baby metal.
What? what does it look like?
The little mushroom pops up. You know, in Mario Maker you can turn to like Link or Samus and whatnot with these special mushrooms?
Yeah.
Well, this one turns you into all 3 members of the band as one sprite, and they all hop in unison, and they all shout, "Hot! Yep!" And they just say Japanese stuff when they're jumping around.
What are they singing about? Kids.
I don't know. Just, hardcore metal.
All right. Well, cool.
So check out Baby Metal if you're a fan. If you're playing Mario Maker, make a Baby Metal level. Why not? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Well, I don't have anything else, David.
Yeah, nothing else.
Other news.
Nothing else game related from my news. So should we go into our gaming experiences?
Let's do it. All right, this is a gaming experience. What up? Welcome to the brand new section. That's not new at all.
No, it's been literally since episode 1.
I have been playing some games, but I suspect you've been playing some more because, like I mentioned, until yesterday at like 5, what was it? I've been just dissertation. It's my thing.
Well, I've been waiting for you to finish your dissertation, so I've been putting some of my games on hold, but I went back to an old classic, Diablo 3, a game I never beat because I just got bored with it, and I'm having more fun with it. Turns out it's more fun multiplayer. Who knew?
Yes, that's my one of my gaming experiences as well. And the weird part is you asked me to play Diablo, which I thought was strange. Normally,
Yes.
I might put in some time in Diablo, but yeah, this is new for you.
Yeah, like I said, never remember when I bought it. It was about a month after you guys had already beaten it, so there was nobody playing it anymore. So one-player Diablo, not that exciting, and I kind of lost interest. But I was like, remember, I wanted to play Overwatch with you, but we're in that weird little gap period between Overwatch closed beta and open beta, so we couldn't play it.
Yup.
So I was like, I don't know, what else is on BattleNet? Let's do Diablo. So we did that for a while. It was kind of fun.
Yeah, I have to admit, I had a good time, which I did not expect. I mean, I expected to have some fun anytime we play a game together, but yeah, that was particularly weird about how much fun we had. Actually, I'm kind of excited to play it again soon.
Yeah, me too. It's a weird. I'm happy to be wrong because I had written off that game as just stupid and mindless killing, and it still is mindless killing, but it's kind of fun mindless killing. That incremental improvement of your character is pretty fun to do, and we discovered a new mode last night that kind of adds more life to the game.
Yes. You were the one who taught me about this mode.
Yeah, it's the seasonal mode.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the
seasonal mode is?
Yeah, go ahead. What's the concept?
So this is pretty strange. So seasonal mode, basically, it's like you hunt bounties. So you have all these areas in Diablo. Everybody knows about these. Like a map. So you've got the sand place, and then the rock place, and then they all have names, but I don't remember them all. And you've got little town hubs in the middle. Well, here they're still town hubs, but you can go and do little fast. They're right-sized pieces of gaming, and this is something that I think we should talk about in a future episode. Bite-sized gaming is becoming the shit, right? The casual marketing or casual games jumped in on this. Like Candy Crush, for example, you can pop it out, play it for a second, and then put it away and just pause it mid-game. Or like not Castle Crushers, that other one, Clash of Clans, things like that. Yeah, and so this is one of those, but for Diablo 3, like it's just that this is the thing that kept pushing me forward. I was like, oh, I could just do another one. It's like little
bounty quests they take about 10 minutes to accomplish, and they give you tangible rewards when you finish, like a lot of golden experience.
Yeah, so sometimes it's something straightforward, like a bounty. It's like, hey, the butcher, go kill him. And you're like, okay, yeah, I remember the butcher fight. That one's always fun. And you go, and it starts you on that, like, 3rd level of the Hall of Agony or whatever. And, so you're right there. You don't have to run through the whole thing. You just got to clear the people to him and then get to him. And then you fight him. And then sometimes the quests are different. It's like kill 100 people in the desert or whatever. And so you got to go hunt around and kill 100 people. And then you're done, and you teleport back. So it's just a more manageable... So one of the things about Diablo that didn't really resonate with me, it was just the clearing an entire map, just fighting the same monsters over and over, just to get to an objective. It's like a background, I guess. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And this just changes that. Like the story, we've already played it a ton, I haven't. So this is just like, oh, now I get to go have fun. The fun little bite-sized portions of the game that I liked so much.
Right, and we cranked up the difficulty, so we're advancing faster, so we get that more immediate feedback and gratification. Because it's actually smart. The harder the game is, the more golden experience you get for fighting. Mm-hmm. And the seasonal aspect of it, because what you're talking about, you're describing the quests and rifts, which is the new like DLC, like the expansion added that. But then there's a seasonal aspect too, where Diablo is in seasons. I think we're in season 5 or season 6 right now. And if you take a brand new character from level 1 and play them through that season, you get rewards like new armor sets and new, cosmetic options for all your characters when you do that. So it's kind of like in Hearthstone, how you can get different backs on your cards, or in Overwatch where you can get different poses or different like things that you say. This is Blizzard has figured out that people like to collect these little frills and keeps them more interested in games that they might have given up on. So when season 7 starts, we would start over again from level 1, and you're like, oh no, I missed my level 70. Do you though? Because half the fun of Diablo is learning a new character, finding out which way to level it, like picking your skills, picking your talents as they incrementally unlock. So it's kind of fun to start from scratch. Like I started with a Crusader and you were a witch doctor, and I was just kind of like, okay, so this is how the Crusader plays out. It's fun to kind of like, leave my hunter behind and try something new.
Right.
In a faster kind of laboratory, because I'm not having to go through all the cutscenes and all the story and all the talking to people. It's just jump in, kill some stuff, level up about we played for most of the night and got to level 30 something.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, you can level really quickly, so it adds that replayability. Like World of Warcraft, for example, man, to get someone to the top level just didn't appeal to me. I got one, and then I was like, I'm good. I had a bunch of alts, but I never got another one all the way up. So this is like, adds incentive to that. Now I'm like, oh, I want to play all the players all the way to the top now. Level them up, and this is a way to do it.
Yes. So, I had fun. I want to do it again. I want to keep playing. I actually went back and finished the story mode, so now I haven't beaten the Reaper of Souls expansion, like that extra act that they added, but I beat Diablo, so that was fun.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, you fight Diablo at the end for people who haven't beaten it yet.
Hey, we lose listeners when we get these spoilers.
I know.
Even the obvious ones.
Even the obvious ones, like in the game Diablo, you end up fighting Diablo.
Oh, what the hell? I'm out.
Best of luck in the future.
In your future endeavors. I played some Talos Principle.
What's that?
Okay, so this was one that got a bunch of really critical acclaim. People were excited about this one because you're a robot. You wake up basically in this kind of garden, and you hear this voice, and it's like, "Hello, I am Elohim," is what he's called. Which is, if most of you know, that's the way that it's a phrase. It's a Hebrew phrase that means actually multiple gods, but it's how in Genesis God addresses himself basically. Mm-hmm. And most scholars think that's because the Jews used to be polytheistic, and anyway, whatever. That's a whole different aspect. But anyway, so Elohim, it's borrowing from that phraseology, saying God basically. Mm-hmm. I am Elohim, and here's I created you, and I will watch you forever and stuff. It's like this God kind of speaking to you, and you're like, huh, okay, that's weird. and then you just start walking through, and there's little puzzles you have to solve, like little, I don't know how to explain specifically, but puzzles, like logic puzzles kind of, that you have to do. And as you do them, it unlocks more of this thing. And from the very beginning, it says, don't go into the tower. The tower is how you kill yourself. So it's sort of like this Garden of Eden type feel, right? Don't just scale that tower, because that's the end of that'll be the end of you and all like you, or something like that. And so of course you're like, well, hell. And you can see the tower very shortly into the game. You see it in the background. You're like, man, I kind of want to go over there, right? But I'm pretty good at resisting urges, so I'm like, no, I'm not going to. I'm just gonna wait. But so far, so fun. I mean, it's pretty fun. I'm thinking there's a lot of reading involved in stuff that you're reading. It's a lot of iconography from Roman mythology and Greek mythology and stuff like that you're reading about, like these fabled characters that died tragically or did these different things. And I'm still trying to put it all together. I'm like, what do these have to do with each other? And why am I solving puzzles slowly and opening up new... I don't know. I can't figure it out. But this is a game I've been excited to play for a while, because everyone went nuts about it. I'm surprised you didn't hear about it. The Talos Principle?
Yeah, went right over my head.
Okay, so the Talos Principle in general tells you, pretty early on in the game, is this idea of when is something living, right? Like it's from Greek mythology.
Yeah, the big automaton, the big bronze statue that would protect what was it, Crete or Europe?
I think it was Crete. Let me look it up in general. Talos Principle. Aha, there. Oh, that's the game. You goober. I want the game. I want the... okay, I guess it's not... Oh, philosophy. There we go.
No, Minos, I think. I just looked it up. From Hephaestus made it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm having a hard time. Anyway, so... but the point is obvious. I mean, when is something a human? Kind of.
Right.
And it poses pretty cool questions as you're reading it. It says things like one of them said, it's like these letters. So anyway, it doesn't matter. It's this letter, this inner office memorandum of this company that presumably makes these machines. You don't know yet, but it's, you hear them communicating back and forth. And one of them says, so yeah, we were talking around the coffee table and something hit me in a conversation we had. He asked me, what if you were to wake up tomorrow and discover that you were an alien or a robot? Mm-hmm. What would you do differently? Would you tell people? Would you tell anyone? Would you admit it yourself? Would it change anything you feel about yourself as a person? Would you feel that you're a person, that you've lost your personhood? Or would you think, oh, well, that doesn't make me any less me?
That explains why I laugh when I see people get killed in video games.
Yeah, exactly. I knew I was robot. No, we are totally people, David.
Humans make these sorts of jokes, so it's fine.
Have some water. I love it. It lubricates me just like oil would. But there's actually a subreddit called Totally Not Robots. And it's that same sort of joke you and I make with that. It's funny. Like the aliens one too. It's like look at,
because a lot of people haven't really thought this through. Like it seems cliche to us because we've been doing like cyberpunk. Like it's a recurring theme in a lot of cyberpunk literature and dystopian literature. Yeah. But a lot of people, like Joseph, my brother, he just watched Ghost in the Shell. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah. The anime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was just kind of like, whoa, like kind of blown away by the concepts of like, where does humanity end and where does, like, can an AI have like personhood is essentially what they explore in that. And a lot of people who haven't played games like Deus Ex haven't really kind of gone down that path yet. So it's interesting that they're still exploring that.
Yeah. What was that game you and I played? It was a game where you shoot a ton of robots, and then you find out.
Binary Domain.
Binary Domain, yeah, and you find out there's this character in there that.
Spoiler alert.
Yes, spoiler alert. Don't listen. But you find out that a machine with these things you've been killing. But
yeah, and a lot of the robots in that world don't know they're robots.
Yeah, it was crazy. So like
it's like a
that part in the game,
Battlestar Galactica.
Exactly. So these are all like things we've explored before, but I don't know. I want to give this game a fair shake. People really seem to love it, so I'm gonna keep playing it. Get it, cool, knock it out. Now that I've got a little spare time.
Well, I finished Fire Emblem Birthright, and it took me a while.
Oh shit!
Yep. So
that was a big game.
It is, but the problem is there's actually another entire 2 more games that came out at the same time. So now I'm on Fire Emblem Conquest, which is the harder of the 2. where you play as the bad guy, like the bad kingdom. Because at the very beginning, there's these two kingdoms. One of them is kind of based on feudal Japan. The other one's kind of based on feudal Europe. Can you guess which one the good kingdom is?
Probably the Japan.
Yes, like the Japanese kingdom is the good kingdom. The knights and stuff are the bad one. But it's like a kingdom ruled by an evil king, but the people there are good, right? They're just living in an evil society. So when you play the good path, like it's your standard like good versus evil, like try and stop an evil king. But the bad one's interesting because you're playing as a citizen of that kingdom who's trying to stop it from within while still like maintaining loyalty to her culture and to her like kingdom, right? So,
Yeah.
and it's a lot harder. It's a lot more desperate because on this one, you can't just train. Like in the other one, there were all kinds of extra missions you could do to like train your troops, level them up, Fire Emblem, right? Like the higher level you are, you get the class change, you get to max out your stats. You end up being pretty unstoppable. Well, you can't do that on this one. So you have to be very careful about who gets the last hit, like which characters you're going to use. There's not enough experience for everybody. And you need to level up some powerful characters to beat the game.
Okay.
So you know how like every Fire Emblem game starts off with like a strong paladin kind of character who takes no damage and kills everything in one hit. But when he levels up, when he kills something, he gets like 1 experience because he's way too over leveled. Well, like now, if you use that character, yeah, you might save your life, but also you're wasting experience that you could have used on leveling up a weaker unit. So there's a lot of little choices like that make this game harder. But after putting so many hours into Birthright, I've kind of put Conquest aside for right now because I want to just kind of give myself time to miss that game again.
Yeah.
Because it's almost too much of a good thing. When you release 3 Fire Emblem games on the same month, it's just too much.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. It's like even Dragon Age Inquisition was great, but man, after a while, too much of a good thing. So I think you mentioned that last time.
Yeah. But the reason I've been playing Diablo and these other games is because I'm waiting for you to finish your dissertation so you can play the game you just bought. What are your initial impressions of Xenoblade Chronicles X?
It's fun. It's a bunch of gameplay videos. Me interested in it, and the videos I watched, it looked simplistic, the fighting, but actually it's really complicated. Oh man, the whole combat system where like, okay, so whenever someone shouts something to you, you got to be watching out for that. You got to be watching for your reset. You got to be watching for your or this thing a little better in combat. You got to be watching out for your cooldowns on your abilities. You got to be switching between your abilities because there's a secondary cooldown. There's you got to attack someone from the back. You get different like some abilities are better from the back, some abilities are better from the side. It's just crazy. I just find myself with a lot of things to worry about. It's almost like the old PvP in World of Warcraft where when you're high level and you've got a ton of things in your mind you need to do, and what you're like, okay, so if he comes at me straight, I'm going to pop this, and if a rogue jumps me from behind, I'm going to hit 9, and all these things in your head going at once. That's kind of what's happening here. It's
like a more complicated version of World of Warcraft because when you watch those videos, you see like the arts kind of look like they've got cooldowns, all the skills. It looks like an MMO, right? And so you're like, oh, it's pretty simple. It's like an MMO. But when you get in it, there's so many things going on because you got to factor in the weather. Like electric attacks do more damage during thunderstorms. You got to factor in like positioning, like you have a higher chance of hitting if you're above the creature, like shooting down at them or like attacking down on their head. You got to factor in what part of their body part you're attacking. So maybe it's easier to get to the creature's leg, but if you could chop his tail off, you can stop him from doing that acid attack. So you got to factor that in. Then you're balancing between your range and your melee attacks because guns do less damage but keep you safer. Swords do more damage, but you're up in the thick of things, so you're getting hurt more. So you're switching on the fly all the time, which changes which skills like power up. And then you gotta say, well, I want to get healed, but do I wait and try and get the secondary cooldown on the heal so I can get a better heal, more efficient? Or do I use it right now because I might die if I try and wait? Like there's all these, depending on what you're fighting, who you're fighting, where you're fighting it, and like the terrain around you and what weapons you're using, like everything's constantly shifting. So the combat is really interesting. And on top of that, you got to make these meta decisions like, what do you want to focus on in this game? Like you chose to be a part of the, the Harriers?
Harriers, yeah.
Which their goal is just to go out and defeat like giant monsters, right? The tyrants, the boss monsters, basically, and you get rewarded more for doing that. Whereas I joined the Pathfinders, and I get rewarded more for like setting up fast travel points and discovering new locations on the map, which is something I love to do on these kinds of games. So no matter what your playstyle is, you can focus on that while you're doing these other things because we're all fighting monsters and exploring.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's incredibly complex. This game. There's so much. Like you said, oh man, you can customize what your people say and
Yeah,
what.
what they shout out,
Oh
which
man,
changes like what bonuses they give to their party members who listen to their words of encouragement.
yeah, and you have, as you're looking at your cooldowns, so you've got two sets of cooldowns: the regular cooldown that you can't use it until it cools down, and you got that second cooldown which charge weapon active. So you have two weapons, So if you're a melee weapon active, they start the second cooldown phase, and then you're like, okay, so I know that my party member, this is going on in the back of your head as you're furiously pushing buttons. I know my party member just said this, and they'll probably say a ranged attack next, maybe. So I need to think about whether I want those to be on their first cooldowns or their second cooldowns to activate bonuses. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when you activate it when they call for it, and
Yeah,
also
because if you listen to your party members' calls for, like, if your party member says, "Hey, close in for a melee attack," and you do that, that raises the whole party's morale and heals everybody. So you get little rewards for actually like fighting
yeah,
as a unit.
and there's affinity, there's party affinity within each other. So like they end up liking you more, and you end up liking them more when that
Mhm.
happens. So your overall efficacy goes up. It's just, oh man, it's really complicated. There doesn't seem to be any optimal way to play it. It's nuts.
Yeah,
It's
there's no like one right build that you can look up. There's just there's literally thousands of permutations of how you can build your character.
And I can't tell you how many times I've been. This is how much movement's involved as well. I can't tell you how many times I've been up somewhere and fallen off something because I'm moving around and pushing all these buttons and trying to get to the back or the side or, whatever. Or it's just so I can see my friends what they're saying. The little
Mm.
bubbles, and it's crazy. It's fun, man. Yeah, it's fun.
And do you feel like it's because this is the when I look at this game before I bought it, the worry I had was because not only is combat really complex, but the world itself is very complex. Like it's a giant world, it's huge to explore, and then like the subsystems, like customizing your. We haven't even gotten to the mechs yet. You get to customize your mechs. You get to customize everything, like your barracks. What like the sheer number of quests and side quests and affinity quests, like it's the most complex game I've ever encountered. Like, do you feel overwhelmed to the point where you just like there's a certain point where we just don't care anymore and we give up, right? When we have too many
Yeah.
things to worry about, too many things to, and I've hit that point a lot. Like in Fire Emblem, I was just like, I don't know, I just want to finish this game. I'm tired of trying to optimize. Or in The Witcher 3, I was kind of close to that point where I was like, I don't even know, I don't want to make a potion. I'll just over level so I don't have to worry about all those little fiddly bits. But with this game, I haven't gotten to that point yet, and it's weird because on paper it seems like I would have gotten there right away. Have you felt that kind of sort of existential anxiety of there's just too much, why should I bother?
No. Huh, weird. Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, why do you think that is? Because I can't figure it out.
Uh, I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't. Maybe we just need to play it more. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's. I know that there's enough that. Okay, so maybe it's because whenever there's a lot of things you need to do, and you know what that endpoint is, then you're like, whoa, that's going to be a long way off.
Hmm.
Here, it's like just because we don't even know. You know what I mean? We haven't even decided
Yeah.
on a way to go yet. We're still like looking at all the different paths, and they're all long, but we still have some freedom to choose.
Yeah,
You
and
know
I
what I
think
mean?
with games like The Witcher 3, like it's a big game, but I feel like I could 100% it, and that could turns into should in my mind.
Yeah.
But a game like this, there's just no way. It's just too vast. So I kind of lose that obligation of I need to master it. I just decide to have fun with it and just explore and see what happens. Like it
Yeah.
becomes more like the real world at that point. Like I'm
Yeah.
never going to see every single inch of the real world, so I just drop that off the list of things that I worry about.
That's got to be it. So
Yeah,
interesting.
really weird, but we're having fun with it so far. Our next goal is to get to where we can both play in the same party, because we can play in the same squad and like help each other out, but you can actually play at the same time like an MMO if we're on the same quest. So we're just waiting until we're both level 15 for that.
Yeah. Any of the games I played was pretty much it. I mean, like I said, I didn't get to play a ton of games, so looking forward to this coming week where hopefully I can do a little more of that.
Yes, and May is my last month of work before summer vacation, so I'm going to be in full-on gaming mode right around the time you become in full-on missing in action mode, so it'll be an interesting summer for both of us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all right, then I guess we can wrap up this section and move on to the game experience. Oh, I'm sorry, the in-depth analysis.
Yes.
All right. Well, this is the in-depth analysis portion where we're going to be talking about the point of the episode, which is character roles.
Yes, role playing, but the actual ROLE roles, like what are the roles characters have?
Yeah, that's really okay. So on the surface, when you first mentioned this, I was like, "Well, that's not very fun." But that once I started diving into it, I was like, "No, actually, there's a lot going on here." You brought up some interesting points.
Yeah. So when I say character roles, what are we talking about?
So this is like maybe the Holy Trinity, right? Like warrior, damage dealer, maybe a wizard, a rogue, a cleric, that kind of thing, right?
hmm
Is that,
So
is that where you're going?
yeah. So most games will have at least three, sometimes four kind of classes of characters. You'll have your tanks, and they're the ones who the defenders. They have different names in different games, but they go up there. They don't do a lot of damage, but they're tough. They're hard to kill. And what's their job?
Soak damage or to distract the enemy onto them, right? Like control aggro. That's what you're talking about.
Right, and you see this a lot in MMOs and also MOBAs, right? Like in Here's the Storm, this is your Diablo or your Muradin or your ETC.
Yeah. Or like in obviously D&D, you've got the warrior in the old school D&D, and then the new school or fourth edition, it was like paladins as well. You could play pretty much anything in the front line that's soaking damage.
And then your next role, MMOs call them DPS. MOBAs sometimes call them carries or assassins. D&D called them strikers. But what is the role of the striker or the DPS?
Those are the people who are so everything. This has to do with character balance, right? So if you have high survivability, you can't have high damage, and if you've got high damage, then you can't have high survivability. And no one should be able to heal themselves, or that's just too good. So it's like this kind of. It's sort of like the diversification of, or the division of labor, that the philosophy that came along that allowed us to be really awesome as humans.
Yeah, this is like Adam Smith's economics put into games, right? Like if I'm better at making coconut boats and you're better at making coconut milk, then we just have an X number of coconuts. That's better for me to make all the boats and you to do all the milk, and we just trade. I don't know how you would make a boat out of coconuts, but that's my chosen specialization.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So the DPS, which stands for damage per second, his job is to deal as much damage as possible, but he doesn't have the defenses of a tank or a defender, so he's got to rely on the tank or defender to keep him alive or her alive while he or she are doing the damage.
Right. So that's their role, which makes sense. Character balance.
And then you have the healer. D&D called them the leader sometimes, or the support sometimes in MOBAs. And what's their job in this Holy Trinity?
Well, their job is to heal people, right? So they're sometimes they're frontline people, sometimes they're backline, like a priest versus a cleric, a traditional idea. But these are the people who essentially support. Sometimes they, give some maledictions to the bad guys, predictions to the good heals. Like they replace that missing damage, or that soaked damage.
Yeah, they're mitigating damage that we're taking, and they're usually enhancing damage that we're dealing.
Right.
So a good example would be Morales, who has a heal beam, or Mercy, who has a heal beam, but they also have abilities that can increase someone's damage if they're already healed. Like a stim pack, a stim drone, or things like that. And then sometimes there'll be a fourth class that's like a specialist, where they either control the battlefield, like D&D had controllers, or Here's the Storm has specialists, where they just do kind of miscellaneous things. Like it might not easily fit into one of the three classes, but they're useful to have.
Yeah, and some people, further diversify these roles into a lot of different things, like paladins, or you can do melee assassins or ranged assassins, things like that, like melee DPS, ranged DPS.
Tanks.
Sure, yeah. So you can have some diversification of even these. These are kind of the three general ideas, right? Damage, healing, and tank. Someone big to keep them off the other two.
Right. So why are we talking about this now? Because that seems like it was very popular in World of Warcraft's heyday and in D&D 4th edition, but it seems like nowadays games are kind of drifting away from that. Like if you play 5th edition, you have to have a warrior, you have to have a defender and a leader and a striker and a controller. Your party's going to suck, right? Like you can just play whatever you want, and they have less kind of diverse roles. They have less diversification in what they do. Or games like we noticed this when we were playing Diablo, right? Like I played a Crusader, you played a Witch Doctor. I was in the front lines, you were in the back, but it wasn't like we needed a party healer or something to keep me alive.
Right. Yeah, which because you got a little self heal, you got things like it's a game that you can play by yourself.
So everyone can kind of heal and everyone can kind of deal damage and everyone can kind of stay alive.
Right. So how can we make this interesting though? What's so interesting about all the you knew this?
So when I was playing these games, Xenoblade's a little bit like this too. A
Yeah.
lot of these modern games where we've kind of moved away from this diversification of roles. It kind of made me nostalgic for older RPGs of the past. Like it made me nostalgic for the old Final Fantasy job system, right? Like I want to be a fighter and I want to be a damn good fighter. You can be a white mage, you can be a black mage. Like this whole idea of balancing your party around these different roles, like it's really fun for me to specialize in something and be the best damn healer in the game or the best tank or the best, DPS. And we kind of it seems like when we're moving away from that, we're giving ourselves more freedom, but we're also kind of losing that, I don't know, this certain je ne sais quoi, like this quality where we feel really good about choosing a specific role and specializing in it.
Yeah. As soon as you said that, it clicked with me too because I like playing games like Diablo where you're kind of keeping yourself up, and the other person's doing the interesting part is that you're both doing it together. Um, but and same thing with the not Xenogears. I keep saying it, Xenoblade. Sorry, it was Gears, Xenosaga, Xenoblade. Xenoblade is the current one, and you're playing that, and you kind of do everything by yourself. You don't need any, but yeah, there's something about when I used to play a priest in World of Warcraft, and there was something about that just being that's what I do. I do heals. I can't tank at all. I can't DPS. I mean, you shouldn't be able to, especially if you're not a shadow priest. I just heal, and I heal very well. There's something beautiful about that.
Yeah, and that
know,
old role system was it wasn't so rigid, right? Like you could be a shadow priest if you wanted to try not healing for a while. So like it had some flexibility, but it was a lot. There was a sense of accomplishment. I don't know how to describe it, but when you are locked into something, when your freedom's restricted, I actually had more fun because it limited the number of things I felt like I should do. Again, it's that Xenoblade question again. The number of things that I could do are limited, and therefore I feel like I could really shine in that restricted option set, right? Like I'm a ranger.
Yeah,
I'm never going to be a good healer. I'm going to become the best damn damage dealer I could possibly be.
but there's something also really fun about like that too. Okay, so let's say in a MOBA you don't have a tank. Let's say you guys draft and there's some dickhead who just doesn't get a tank, or let's say you get into in really any game you don't have a tank or you don't have a healer. Well, you're going to build yourself a certain way, or if it's an RPG, you're going to level a certain way to make yourself more resilient, right? So you don't just instantly die whenever you inevitably get people hitting them. But there's something really fun about the fact when you do have the great composition and you can go, I call it going ham, right? You can just go all damage items or all damage build, this glass cannon, and you're just putting up huge numbers. And alternatively, when you're the tank and your backline feels comfortable enough to do that, you're like, all right, yeah, here we go. And you're setting up these kills, you're pushing people back to your team or doing whatever you need to do. It allows for this kind of, and if that's what you're looking for, that is the way to go. But when we don't, like if we're playing like I said, like a MOBA or like Overwatch or something where you don't, it's better to get someone who can, slightly self-heal, one of these hybrids, someone who can take care of themselves. Like a druid or something, or
someone with more
kind of
sustainability.
So, I think that's a big part of it. Is that is if that's what you're looking for, right? The team aspect of it, where every other making a beautiful thing happen, or if you're looking to, just where you don't have to depend on some idiot.
Yeah, maybe that's it, because my best gaming experiences have been when I'm with my best friends and we know each other really well, right? Like there's that trope in movies and animes and things where like, oh, they're really good. They've been fighting together since they were 5. They know all their ins and outs. They can trust each other. Like if he shoots to the right, the other guy's gonna push that guy to the right because he knows he was gonna shoot there and he's gonna put that guy in the path of that bullet. Like there's this whole idea of when you're with your best friends and you can trust them to do their jobs correctly, it's really fun when you can just focus on yours, right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing I really miss about 4th edition. We've moved on to 5th edition now, like most people of D&D. But one thing I really miss about 4th edition was knowing that Tim was going to make the best goddamn tank he possibly could. his defender was going to defend the hell out of me, and I was going to make the best healer I possibly could, so I could keep him alive while he did that, and you were going to make the best, or you would make the best defender, but one of us, whatever role we decided, we would make the best one we could do, and then really thrive in the roles that were assigned to us.
Right. Yeah. And there's that beautiful moment of like you're looking at the board, and you guys are talking it through, and then Tim's like, oh, I know what I'm gonna do, and you're like, oh, are you gonna jump over and then do that? And he's just like, yeah, and you're like, oh, that's awesome, because that sets up like two other players in a place where they can do whatever they need to do.
Yeah. It's the same thing in Final Fantasy Tactics, right? You're not going to build a whole team of knights because there's something you could win most battles with just a bunch of knights, but there's something really fun about having a knight who's protecting a black mage and the knight's being healed by a white mage, and you can do a lot of interesting synergies that way, where the sum total is like greater than the sum of their parts, right?
Yeah, and there's necessarily like so if you have a bunch of people who can take care of themselves, they're all going to be doing around the same damage, right? Because if you start to stray any way, this way or that way, then you're going to get this diversification of roles. You're going to get, okay, well, we're all self-sustaining characters, but that guy over there can attack a little better if he's left alone, and this good person over here can kind of take more damage. So we'll just pretend like that's a tank, and that's you know what I mean? It's that diversification of labor or of roles that we know how to optimize damage, and that's really what it's about. It's optimizing damage and making sure things die. So yeah, sometimes you can go like completely don't do these roles, but sometimes you kind of have to, or they kind of happen on their own. So that would be a very hard thing to do from a game design point of view, making sure that people can't do that or don't want to do that.
Yeah, and it's something that's missing in more modern games, because they want you to kind of be able to do everything. They want you to feel locked in. But there's something fun about, well, it's like Michelle and I were playing Life is Strange yesterday, and she remarked that the main character was kind of an archetype, right? She's the wallflower waif hipster, right? It's almost an archetype at this point, where I'm kind of shy, but I'm really artsy and I'm very deep. And I was like, yeah, but there's not necessarily a bad thing to have archetypes. Archetypes exist for a reason. One, they exist, like people in life are wallflowers or outgoing or whatever.
Yeah.
But two, when we lay the groundwork like that, when I know that your character is the healer, like you can make narrative choices for that character in the game that you wouldn't be able to make necessarily for a generic hero. Like in Xenoblade Chronicles X, your character is generic hero, right? Like you're just one member, a faceless member of Blade who woke up and you don't have a memory. And that's fun because you can project yourself onto that, and it leaves you a lot of room for beginnings. But imagine if your character was a combat medic. What kind of stories could you write for her? Like maybe she lost her parents in the war and she's trying to, she's obsessed with medicine now. She wants to protect other people. Like a game that does that really well is Overwatch. If you read the backstories for each character, they make sense around what that character's role in the game is, and it makes them actually really fun to play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it just necessarily extremes are more interesting to us than jack of all trades. Like, for example, there's no Guinness Book of World Records for doing a lot of things pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'd have it.
Yeah, that'd be me. That's me. That's me to a T, dude. I've had my thumb in way too many pies, and I'm never the greatest at anything. But I'm always pretty good at different things,
Yeah, but you're kind of boring as a character because there's no the Jeremiah specialization, right?
Yeah, and that's just the thing. Like even on this show that I might be on, where they're casting us a certain way, they emphasize some variables and underemphasized others. And I thought that was interesting. I was like, yeah, I guess that's more interesting than, being like, oh, yeah, he does a lot of weird things, not all that great, but, pretty good. Mm-hmm. So, right. But, yeah, I think one of the things I thought was really interesting is the fact that people will migrate to these roles. Like I was saying, if you make a bunch of hybrids, you're still probably, if their damage and sustainability or anything fluctuate at all, you're still going to get some of this falling into these roles. And a lot of that has to do with, psychology of labeling theory, right? Mm-hmm. It always blows people's mind, myself included, but I don't think quite as much. Whenever somebody like in a MOBA, especially, I'm going to lean on that. When they do so, or not, or even a MMORPG, whenever like you take like a priest and you bring him in as a shadow priest for your DPS, you know what I mean? Like when someone steps outside of their label, people might lose their goddamn mind. They're like, oh, now you're going to start encouraging all priests to go DPS. Oh, get out of here, you. Things like that. Like, I'd never made shadow
how
priests.
Is that any more of a selfish decision than playing a thief in World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A rogue. Like, how is that any different? Like, I want to do DPS, but I want to do it with magic, and I thought a priest would be fun.
Well, that's also part of the complaint I have about player roles is I almost always, and here's the storm, or in any game, right? I almost always end up having to play tank or healer because
Mhm.
yes, of course it's more fun to do damage. Of course it is, and I see people who play damage only as inherently selfish. I really do. I'll have to have my mind changed on that because right now I do judge people who play damage if they, especially if they haven't done something or
Especially
offer
if
to do
that's all
something
they'll
different.
play, right?
Yeah,
It's like people who never DM. It's like, well, at least offer to DM once in a while because you might have fun with it, and it's fun to let other people try something else. Like, try being the healer once in a while. Try being the tank.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, okay, let's say you're making D&D characters. Almost everybody's been here. Or if not, let's say you're making, or you're
Picking roles for a game, an online game,
yeah,
like Heroes of the
drafting
Storm
a
or
team. Yeah, for Heroes of the Storm, and every you queue up. Let's say you got 5 friends and you're in the lobby, and you kind of people start clicking around on characters. Or in D&D, you start, you get character sheets out, you spread them out. Everybody's in the same room, and you kind of start writing some stuff in.
Or this is really obvious on Overwatch when you're in the lobby and it's like there are
Yeah.
not enough support, there's not enough tanks, there's not enough snipers. They'll tell you what the team's missing, and then it's almost a game of chicken. Is like nobody wants to switch their character to fill that role.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I get upset because the person that asked the question usually ends up being the person who has to do it.
Mhm.
Because if you're like, guys, are we gonna make a warrior? Or hey, guys, we need heals. As soon as somebody, like in Here's the Storm, for example, or in D&D, like Here's the Storm, whenever they pick it and then they lock it in and they start, like start the search maneuver, or saying that, hey, I'm ready to start the search maneuver, or in D&D where they just start filling out their character, they put assassin, they start rolling their dice, and I'm like, oh man, come on, you didn't even ask, dude. That's kind of dickish. Like, I really think that that's a selfish move.
I know, and there's a famous story we share where we were playing D&D, and you tend to make healers or usually tanks, right? Defenders, fighters, and such, paladins. And you really, 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 really want to play an Avenger. It's a striker. It's a high damage, low defenses character. And you had this whole story about it, and you had picked out all your powers, and you were really excited. And we show up at the game, and I'm running the game. I'm the DM, and I'm running just a published adventure. And this is 4th edition, where everything is mathematically balanced to a T, right? Like, unlike 5th edition, which can be really swingy, 4th edition was like, if you have a balanced party, you have a pretty good chance of surviving this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're playing it, and you're like, all right, I got my Avenger. I'm really excited. I never play strikers. This is going to be super fun. And the other characters in the party were like, cool, I brought a sorcerer. And the other one's like, yeah, and I brought a warlock. And you're like, wait, we're all strikers? And they're like, yeah, I guess so. And you're like, oh. And normally at this point, you would be like, I guess I'll make a defender. But you took a moral stand on this one. You're like, no, you know what? No. I always end up playing something else. I want to try this character out. I never get to play what I want to play. So you guys went into the adventure with a team of 4 strikers, and you died in like the first attack.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I knew it was going to happen. Here's what I don't understand: same thing when people queue up in D&D, or when people queue up in a game and they're all that way, like Overwatch or whatever. I'm like, guys, you know how this is going to turn out, don't you? It seems to be a dilemma to me. Either you understand what you're doing whenever you pick an assassin, and you lock them in, or a damage deal, like one in D&D or whatever. Whenever you secure that role, you either are telling everyone else, I don't really care about the team, or you're so ignorant that you think people actually don't want to switch roles occasionally. Like, you're like, oh, they're just tank people. People who are tanks. I'm like, yeah, sure, maybe. But they may just do that because that's what they're left with and they're good at it now,
Yeah.
The people who care about the team. It seems to be a dilemma that way. It's either one or the other. Either you understand what's going to happen and you just don't give a fuck about that, or you don't understand what's going to happen and you're a moron. Or sometimes I hear them say that. They're like, it'll be fine. I'm like, it's not going to be fine. That makes me think that you don't appreciate whenever I go tank and support. You don't understand that if that role's not filled, you're dead. You know? So one of those two things, I didn't mean to make this a rant, but that really does bug the shit out of me. It really does.
And that would be probably in the cons column, right? Of having heavily defined roles in a game like Here's the Storm.
Yes.
I would define Here's the Storm to some extent Overwatch, although I think it's more flexible than Here's the Storm, and 4th edition D&D as games that are very heavy on this role system, this holy trinity, or World of Warcraft, same thing. A lot of Blizzard games are this way, where they're very heavy on these role things, which I like, but the downside is if you don't have team players, it can be a really frustrating experience.
Exactly. And if people, what sucks is if you can play the role better than the other person can, so you start making certain assumptions like, oh, I'm going to dive deep into this enemy team because I know my support will see that I'm about to do that by my positioning and will come up and walk me out by healing me all the way out, you know?
Hmm.
And so you take that dive and you turn around and they're like running away and you're like, oh, what the fuck? It can make you even because you're like, dude, come on. Obviously I was about to do that. And they're like, well, don't, that's dumb. And like, no, if you're a good healer, you should have been able to see that and get me out of there. But you can't say that because that's rude. I don't know, man. It's
I think one of the pros in that system, though, now that I'm thinking about it, is it makes for very distinct and different game styles. So the game gets more replayability, right? Like the game feels a lot different as a healer than it does as a striker or as a defender.
yeah.
And so you can play a game like Here's the Storm and not burn out as quickly because there's such diversity in how the game runs, right? Like if you're playing D&D and you're playing as a cleric versus as a rogue, it just feels totally different. That's why different classes exist. It's almost replayability. And one thing that Blizzard does well is they actually force you to try different roles they haven't tried yet. They're like, hey, win 3 warrior quests. I'm like, I hate warriors. Like, we'll try it. And I'll end up finding warriors I enjoy playing that I wouldn't have tried otherwise because I think I don't like playing warriors.
Yeah. So PSA, by the way, is if you're playing multiple games, like this won't happen in D&D probably, but think about this in the long term, sure, for them. But roll over and over again, especially if it's not damage, you might want to ask them, hey, do you want to try this time? Like 100% of the time for me, like whenever I'm playing a game and I'm playing damage, ask the tank or the healer, hey, do you want to try damage for a bit? I can sub in. They're like, almost never do they go, no. Because, that's the thing. It reinforces my hypothesis that they're just that's just less fun. It's just letting people up in a game.
Yeah. I don't know if I think it's more fun, but that might just be something I've said to convince myself. Like the guy who throws layups but never gets to slam the ball into the hoop.
Yeah, there's a certain art to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel really good when I can set my friends up for success, but that might just be something I've been telling myself because I never am the person slamming the ball into the hoop in these games.
No, yeah, that's a perfect analogy because in basketball, we had Garrett, right? Garrett he's a 6'6", he's a freak of nature. He's like he was like 15, 6'6", size 13 shoes. Kid was a monster on the basketball court. Dribble, and I could penetrate people, like penetrate the guard, not anything perverted, but you can think whatever you want about penetration. But I could get in there. So I became this guy who would slash and pass. I would cut in, kind of distract everyone, get people to my part of the paint, and then I would do a fancy pass like behind my back, or there's a bunch of different goofy stuff I did. But I could get it over to him.
Garrett, who now has an open shot.
Yeah, or just run and dunk it or lay it up. And so I was that guy. Or we had fancy pass. Like I had one where I threw it behind my back and it would bounce off the backboard and he'd catch it, and put it in. Just I know what I was doing, and I was a crowd pleaser that way. But there was a game where he didn't come and we were playing in a Cotter gym, and then I was the tallest guy there, and I was like, oh shit, this is me now. And they were setting me up, and I was like, this is fun. Like it was just way funner, even though I wasn't as good at it as I was setting people up. So I just think inherently it's more fun than it is to be the roadie, but I understand that you can have fun in that position as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if I have a choice, I usually go for healer because I have a lot of fun. It makes me feel important when someone's about to die and I come in and save their life, and without me being there, we probably would have lost the fight. Even though I know that nobody else in that fight knew that happened, right? Like I'll run in there and be like, oh, I just saved it. And it's like, oh, we won. It's like, oh, good damage, man. It's like, yeah, good damage. You would have been dead, though. You would have been dead. So it doesn't get as much like kudos.
People inherently don't. So here's a great example. And Here's the Storm. That's a MOBA, but this could be another game. I healed the shit out of this guy. Like I dive the entire team, get to their back line, kill all their squishies, and get out. Just him, because the way I was zoning and the way I used this displacement move that he has, that the person has. Like I was doing all this shit that was crazy, and I would tell him, I go crazy, I got you. And he's like, really? I'm like, dive the whole thing, and he would, and he's like, whoa, and he was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. But at the end, even though all of our friends were on the mic and they heard me saying that, they were still like, whoa, look at that guy's damage. You're a really good Greymane. I was like, oh, come on, dude. Like, right. Yeah, he's okay, but this is literally the first time he's ever played it. Do you think it's coincidence? Like,
you know what the difference is between a good Greymane and a bad one is? Turns out the good Greymane's alive to deal damage.
I know, and that's the thing about being like a melee DPS, right? Or a DPS in general, is knowing how far you can go safely. You know what I mean? And then minimizing the
risk.
Your risk, yeah. So that's what it's all about. So that margin of safety gets even bigger with a good healer, right? So it's just funny that people don't conceptualize it like that. And my team, for example, I came on as support originally, had no idea I was good until we were done team practicing one time, like months later. And I started playing on the ladder, and they're like, "Why don't you? I'll try healing this time. I kind of like this new character." I was like, "Okay," and I destroyed it. And they were like, "Whoa, dude, you're really good." I was like, "Okay, that just makes me think you're not noticing my awesome sports skills, you know?"
Right. Definitely the unsung hero. You're in Inspector Gadget. You're definitely Penny when you're playing a healer in these games.
Yeah, because instinctively to notice the heal, you'd have to be watching your own life bar, which you can't be playing the game if you're doing that. So it definitely precludes that action.
Right.
But I'll even vocalize it. I'm like, I got you, go, or whatever. Or come on, you're good, I got you, and things like that. Letting people know that, dude, I got you. This is me. I'm helping here, because it's just no one gives a shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny.
So those are the frustrations involved with heavy role games. Like I don't know. Do you prefer games that have clearly defined roles where you can't do everything, but you can choose one thing and do it really well, or do you prefer games where you're kind of a jack of all trades and you can do everything, but you're interchangeable with every other cog on the team?
I would say if it's a single player game, the hybrid, and if not, then the other one, because the hybrid is fun and you don't die and you can just go, like in Diablo or like a first-person shooter where you've got med packs or things like that. Like everybody's kind of a carbon copy. But if it's a team game, like you and I playing Diablo, I was like, oh, this is fun. He's the front line, I'm the back line. Okay.
Yeah, and even though Diablo's can be played one player, I was picking talents that were more reliant. Like they'd be like when you were dead in the boss fights, half of my skills were no longer useful. Like taunt, I don't need taunt. I'm the only person alive, right? Yeah. But when we're together fighting, it's fun to be like, I got you, bro. Blind, taunt, all right, and just try and like stay alive as long as possible.
Yeah, and then the second you disappeared, I was fucked because I didn't take any of the skills that, like, there's a runaway skill, there's a skill that like
makes you more survivable.
Yeah, one that gives your zombies like a taunt ability. I didn't take any of those. I maximized my damage, so I was like, oh, I'm dead, and I like instantly got deleted. So yeah, it's more fun that way. I think being able to just like the moments where I could just stand there and literally stand in one place right next to them and just crank out damage, we just destroy those teams, or those team fights, or not team fights, those encounters.
Yeah,
but
delete them.
Yeah, but if we were both hybriding, then I'd be skirmishing all over the place, running around. I'd spend a lot of time moving and taking talents to keep me alive. It's just, yeah, I love being able to extreme it like this.
So it seems like roles are more satisfying, assuming you can trust your team.
Yeah, exactly.
Because here's one thing I've noticed a lot in online games. There's a tendency, and we've talked about this off the show, there's a tendency to, when something goes wrong, immediately try to find whatever role you're not fulfilling and assume that it went wrong there. And we were kind of making fun of it last night, right? Because we didn't have a full team. It was just 2 people, so we couldn't fill the roles anyway. But like, and at low level, we don't have the talents or anything to do those roles properly yet. So like, I can't peel people off you because I haven't learned taunt yet, and you can't do a lot of damage because you only have 1 attack. But like, I'm like, oh, this fight's going really hard. We seem to be having a damage problem. We're having a problem getting our damage output up. And what I was making fun of was what? You've seen this happen 100 times. Yeah,
exactly. You're noticing your own awesome play, and you're not noticing other people's. And so okay. All uncomfortableness is created equal. I know that sounds insane, but it's true. This is neuroscience that we've actively watched. It's in your anterior cingulate cortex.
What do you mean all uncomfortableness is equal?
It's this. It's all processed in the exact same place in the brain. Okay, so for example, pain has 2 places in the brain it pops off. One is locality, right? It shows you where it is. The other one is that anterior cingulate cortex. It's this. And so whenever you take morphine, or there are some, it depends on what you take. There are analgesics that are topical, but there are ones you can take internally that it dulls that activity. So that's why you say, I feel pressure, but it does it, and they say, but does it hurt? And you say, no, the pressure is the locality, but the anterior cingulate cortex, the uncomfortableness is not. So the same thing happens when we're uncomfortable in a social situation, or your I don't like this, displeasure center, you could call it. And that happens whenever you lose a game, right? You're like, oh shit. Well, unfortunately, what's often tied to this is a survival instinct, where when we're uncomfortable, whether it's scared, angry, whatever, we lead to lashing out, right? Fight or flight. And since in a video game, I mean, you could be like, fuck this game and walk off. Some people do. Or you could, it also activates your aggression, right? So that's what happens. You have this bad experience. You consider it displeasurable, and then suddenly you go, well, fuck this, or fuck someone. Who can I say fuck you to? And then you pull up the stat chart and you look it up. JT, our friend, does this all the time, and it bugs me. I'm like, JT, you're being a automaton. Override that system. That's absurd. Of course that's what your body wants you to do. Your brain just
because there's also cognitive dissonance involved, right? Like it can't be something I did wrong because I'm a good player. Therefore, what's the problem? Let's find it.
Yeah, I did the right thing there. And that's the thing, like, you did the right thing based on what you wanted to do. Let's say, like, you and I are playing a game, and you go, all right, here we go. I'm going to go loop up this group of people, right? And, let's say you're playing the Crusader. I'm going to loop them up and put them all in a central point so that Jeremiah will drop all his AoE. And I don't drop my AoE. But now, are you wrong, or am I wrong, right? Like, there was a miscommunication, right? Mm-hmm. If I would have known to do that, if I knew you were doing that, I would have done it. Mm-hmm. I just didn't. And so was it a failure on my part to understand that you were going to do that and use that move? Or was it a failure on your part to say, I'm about to do this?
Or even simpler, like
you know
if I taunt everybody, get them all attacking me, and I blind them, and I go down, is that because you didn't kill them fast enough? Or is it because I could have taken a more optimal series of talents to stay alive longer? Maybe something more survivable like Stone Skin instead of blind.
And there's probably a right answer there, right? Maybe there is in that scenario. But the point is keeping those options available. Like, I always volunteer what I did wrong whenever we team wipe in a game or in D&D. If we lose a character, I'll be like, hey. And even if I'm unrelated, I do it to set an example, right? I do it I go, hey, you know what? I probably could have turns earlier. I could have gotten in the way. Even though I'm a striker, I still have more hit points than you, and you would have been alive. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Kind of drawn aggro just by slicing the guy in the face if we're playing D&D. I volunteer it. I just kind of hope that people would do that as well. Slowly over time they would start offering that information too. But I get
like the natural reaction is to look at whatever thing you're not currently in charge of, because in order for something to go right, go back to World of Warcraft, go back to 2005 or whatever, 2006 when we started playing. Like, when there was a wipe, which is where the whole party dies, here's how it almost always goes down. The fighter dies, then everyone dies. Like, the tank dies, then everyone dies. And the question is, did the tank die because the healer died and the tank wasn't able to put them off of that? Did the tank die because the healer ran out of mana? There's all these different variables about why that happened. But immediately you're like, oh, man, you should have healed me. The tank will point to the healer. You should have healed me. That's why we died. The healer's going to point to the tank. You should have kept me safe. That's why I couldn't heal you. I was running away from all these monsters. The strikers will point at the tank and say, hey, you should have been more careful with survivability. And the tank will point to the strikers. You guys were pulling aggro off me. Tone down the DPS. Like, everyone points to the other section of that pyramid, that Holy Trinity pyramid, and they're all right. Like, every job has to be perfect for this to work. But somewhere along the line, something went wrong, and immediately it's someone else's fault. It's one of the other two jobs.
Yeah, and that's just the thing, is everybody... Look, everyone can play better, really. I mean, unless you're a computer that has an optimal thing, even then it's questionable, because some of things have 2 right answers or 3 right answers, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, should we dive or should we not, for example? Or should we engage this group on WoW or something, or should we not? Well, because, wait, are we going to wait till the healer's full on mana, or the healer has enough mana to make it through the encounter? Like, it just depends on what your end state is. And so there's a lot of assumptions going in. Let's say the healer's sitting down and drinking and the tank engages. Then it's like, the tank could be making the assumption that, all right, he's got enough water or enough mana. Or he could be like, well, I just didn't see it, right? That would be a complete blunder. Or they could be like, oh, I'll just start it and then I'll tank some dank and finish and get up. But either way, you're making an assumption. And I just don't think that it's helpful to point out that to point it out, because then you're like, well, I find myself saying this a lot whenever I get in a fight online over these things. I go, yeah, that would be weird, wouldn't it? Like, because it's like, this guy never heals me. I'm like, yeah, that would be strange. That would be strange if I never healed you. I've got 100,000 healing already, but I just never healed you. Wouldn't that be weird? What wouldn't that be a weird world we live in? Like, no, you're terrible. Yes, that's one conclusion you could come to based off all of the available data. Would you like to hear another one? That's the part that I want to emphasize whenever I rant. Just ask them, and not in a rude way, just be like, oh, I guess I had the assumption that our healer was actually going to come to that fight, something like that. I'm taking the most extreme example, that your healer didn't even show up. Then you're like, what went on there? What was going through your head? And they'll usually tell you somewhat reasonable, or they just fucked up. But either way, it won't help to yell at them. I don't know.
Right. And to take the discussion back a second, at the idea of like role heavy games versus role neutral games, because that's the dichotomy I'm kind of painting here. I'm talking this 4th edition to 5th edition, or this kind of modern Xenoblade Chronicles X versus Final Fantasy 1, right? This idea of how defined do we want the roles, and what are the pros and cons, right?
Yeah.
And the pros, I think, for having loosely defined roles or no roles, a la D&D 5th edition, or Xenoblade Chronicles X, is A, you don't have to rely on your team, but B, I think it lets people play what they want to play. Because going back to that, the rat's always right. Going back to that situation in 4th edition where you really want to play an Avenger, and someone else really wanted to play a Warlock, and someone else really wanted to play a Sorcerer, because they all had stories in their heads about this kind of character concept, right? When you take away the roles, you're not punished for not having somebody to play the healer, right? Like, isn't that the trope? Isn't that the cliche with D&D? Is like, all right, new guy has to play the cleric because nobody wants to do it. Well, if nobody wants to do it, don't make the cleric necessary, right? Don't make it so you have to have a healer.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those, do you want to live, like, okay, so let's say I was a god character, and I just made you, all right, David, here's the deal.
Okay.
I can make life a couple different ways. I can make it so that, you have pretty high highs, and got some lows, but they're not that bad. So life is kind of the doldrums. It's kind of, oh, this is fun, this is great, this is bad. Or I can make life where it's super awesome sometimes, but sometimes it's downright miserable. Which one do you want? I kind of feel like that's the dichotomy here. If you play a hybrid character, you're never going to have these epic moments with your team where you're like, whoa, did you see you use that hook that you also have? Awesome, But instead you're going to be like, oh, this is pretty fun. We all just beat that. Look at Diablo. Hey, we had a great time. That was fun. But it's not quite the team aspect. But whenever you've got a team aspect and someone on your team isn't doing their role, oh, is it miserable?
Yeah,
it's so miserable.
Cool. And again, there is some freedom in not having the role. Like, for example, Tim is making a D&D campaign for the swashbuckling game with Gallarand, Gavlin, and Finbar, right? Now, in a typical 4th edition sense, it's really hard to make that work because we're all basically thieves or swashbucklers. We're all very similar. Like, we could we kind of made it work in 4th edition by making Gavlin kind of a bard, so he could inspire you with his witty phrases and heal you that way. And Gallarand was kind of a fighter because he had 2-weapon fighting, which is like the most damagey fighter you can be. So we kind of made it work, but it was hard. Now in 5th edition, we could all just be rogues if we wanted to, and it'd be a fun game. And we wouldn't be punished for not having a cleric or a bard on our team. Or a knight, or someone to defend. So it does kind of, in a way, it opens you up to more storytelling options because you're not limited in making sure each class is filled. But there is, like you said, something extremely satisfying about having those specializations and having a well-oiled machine that makes it work. It is a lot of fun when we do that. Like when I was playing a cleric and you were playing a fighter and Tim was playing a barbarian, we had a ton of fun. That's one of my favorite D&D campaigns, is when we all just picked a role and just became really good at it.
Yeah, and there is something fun about achieving the maximum in each role. Like in Star Wars: The Old Republic, when I was a Juggernaut, they don't do much damage, but they can just take pain. Or in D&D, if you're a Cavalier, right, in 4th edition for the essentials, or in Heroes of the Storm, there's the character named Leoric. He's from Diablo. He's this undead king. And I built him a certain way where I call it Moment of Despair, because you walk in and you've got this little ability you can use that kind of drains the life from someone, and I maximize that, and then I maximize my tankiness, and that happens, and it's only for like 15 seconds. But the whole team can dump damage on you. You fly in and you're like, hello, and then you would latch onto someone and you start sucking their life off. And the way that I built him, is that the whole team starts dumping their damage on me because you're out there in front. You put yourself out there, and he's not normally that tanky. My life bar doesn't move. It does not move. They burn ults, but nothing happens because I have all these damage mitigation spells and abilities that I just popped, and that nobody normally takes with them. So they dump it, not knowing that, and they're like, what the? And then within the next few seconds, they almost always just rout. They just start running. They're like, oh shit, I don't know what went wrong. We burned everything. Get out. And I just love that moment of like, oh, you think you're gonna hurt me? Watch this, and then you land that little life drain. You pop all the buttons, and you just don't die. It's amazing. Because then you know your team is just like, yes, they're just loving it.
It's the same satisfaction you feel as a priest in World of Warcraft when you crest the corner and you see one of your friends about to go down. He's got like 9% health, and you throw a bubble on him, and then you just throw down all these optimized heals. Like, you suck at everything else, but you are able to get that guy's health bar all the way back to full and keep him alive to turn the fight around.
Yeah.
And so there is something really rewarding about just excelling at whatever your chosen role is. So there is, I don't know, it's a trade-off. I can't decide which is the better style of game. I guess it really depends on who your teammates are.
Yeah. See, and if we were playing Xenoblade in a multiplayer, like you and I are both playing, I would think I would start settling into roles too, because I'm like, oh, well, I'll do this and he can do that. I'll heal and he can, shoot or tank or whatever. And we'll, I don't know. Like, I would definitely pick more. But the way I went right now, I went, you went kind of a hybrid build. You're like a warrior, but a shooter, right?
Yeah, like a skirmishing warrior.
Yeah, and I was tempted by that role too. I ended up going to certain because it has sniper, and I love playing snipers in games. But it's interesting. But if we played together, I'd be like, oh, I'll probably respec into this thing over here and play a little more tanky or a little more shooty or whatever it is that you're not doing.
Right, because there is that idea of synergy, right? Like, we do end up being more efficient when we specialize. That's how the free market works. Mm-hmm. But there's also, I think, something going on psychologically here, right? Like with choices, when the sky's the limit for choices, it's very stressful for us. But when we can limit it down, like when we can throw away everything that's not, if I make my goal be the best healer, I can instantly disqualify 2 talent trees on World of Warcraft, right? I can just stick on Holy.
Yeah.
Or when I can make my goal the best tank, I can instantly just, okay, does that mitigate my damage? Yes. Okay, I'm going to look at it. Does it mitigate my damage? No. Okay, I'm going to throw it out. So being able to throw out a lot of options is also a very, comforting feeling, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It is. Yeah, it's psychology. That's we examine that a lot. The fact that people, what do they call it in philosophy? Like the paralysis of indecision or paralysis.
Yeah, like choice paralysis.
Yeah, where it's like too much. Like people often, you've heard of what is it, Bernoulli's ass? It's someone's ass that has to do with philosophy, and ass being donkey. And the hypothesis or the theory or the philosophy is this: that if everybody makes decisions based on what's better for them, in some way or another, and unless you override it with your mind, I mean, there's different nuances to it, but essentially it says there's this donkey. Imagine this hypothetical. There's this donkey that's equidistant, so exactly distant from 2 separate bales of hay. Mm-hmm. Because one isn't slightly closer, or he doesn't have some minor defect in his eye to judge the distance different, if he could tell they're both equidistant, he would die because he could not make a decision. And then there's another philosophy that says there's a quantum coin toss that's done, where it does somewhere in our head something happens, and there's something that just says, we'll do that one over there, right? And the assumption or the underlying statement is that that if you can still have that verbal behavior, that vocality, that vocal behavior, that oh, screw it, let's do blank, but really there was a determinant in your head that caused you to do that, right? Like maybe you were like, I just am sick of the decision, I'll pick the middle one, right? And it seemed random to you whenever you said it, but actually there was a logic to it. And if you examine those decision behaviors over time and had them repeatedly make that decision, there would be a pattern. And so there is something underlying it. But the point is that we don't like things like in that situation, we can sometimes be belabored over 2 different decisions. Like, think of if 2 job opportunities open up at one time. Think about that. You'd be like, ugh, let me see. I want to do this. Do I want to live there? That would mean I'd have to move, but it pays $20,000 more. Like, we don't like having to think about it.
And compare that with when you're a kid. What do you want to be with when you grow up? That's even worse, because now it's not just 2 things. It's an infinite number of choices.
Yes.
And I think is it Barry Schwartz, the psychologist, who kind of started really talking about the paradox of choice, where the more choices we have, there's a lot of factors, but one of the major ones is what we call missed opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. So if there's 10 different choices and I pick one, that's 9 missed opportunities. It feels worse than if I pick 1 out of 2, right? Then there's only 1 missed opportunity.
Oh, yeah, okay. I can see that. I think well, I guess this is anecdotal. I don't have any evidence reason to believe this, but I think it would more be like, where's the optimal choice out there, and there's more likelihood that you'll pick the wrong one if there's multiple choices.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
the same kind, like, yeah, like, because we, it's like kids when they're taking multiple choice tests, like, well, you've got a 1 in 4 chance of getting it right. I'm like, you don't have a 1 in 4 chance of getting it right, because some of those answers are more obviously wrong than others. So like, we don't understand numbers very well. So the bigger the, like, if we have a million wrong answers and one right answer, you don't have a 1 in a million chance of getting the right answer. But
right.
that's kind of how we look at it in our heads when we're looking at all these choices.
Yeah, and so okay, there's two different decision-making processes we use, and if there's a large enough number, we actually can't handle it. We can't consider them, because like one way to make decisions is to go through serially and think about each of them. Like, let's say 3 girls knocked on your door and said, "Let's date," all
Okay.
at once. You could go, well, she's really funny and nice, and I like hanging out with her. She's prettier, and this one over there, more, whatever it is, like a blonde or something.
Yeah,
like
I would have to
whatever.
chart out their talent trees and really like do the math, like crunch the numbers on that.
Take a drink, boys. Take a drink, boys and girls. I mean, sociopath. But no, you know, that's an easy serial thing you can do, and it's worth your time to do so, because, you know, assuming you want to maximize your chance to have the best possible companion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that makes sense. But let's say that, you know, we've done experiments like this where you give people too many choices. Let's say there's 100 girls that knocked on your door. Like, let's say you're Justin Bieber, and there's 100 girls all of a sudden knock on your door. You don't want to have to go through each one of them serially and go, okay, well, here's all this, she's this, and and this girl seems really fun, and oh, she's wearing cool clothes, and so that seems like she might be fun. I don't know these people, you know, and or whatever, right? Like, you're trying to make this decision. We don't do that. We actually go, oh, okay, I definitely don't want her over there because, you know, let's say she's, I don't know, goth, and that's not your thing, or let's say she's a prissy and that's not your thing, whatever it is, right? It's just not, you're pretty sure it's not going to end up as good. We actually do this elimination phase first, and then we go to the selection phase,
right?
Because it's
like,
so
all the
uncomfortable.
races are completely out right at the beginning, right? So that limits it down, and you're like, okay, now all the, let's say politics are really important to you, so you take out all the Republicans, and you just keep narrowing it down until you have a field that you feel competent enough to analyze. We're gonna have this analysis paralysis.
Yeah, and even if you had all the time in the world, we just aren't comfortable sitting through 100 different people and making the decision. We just get tired of it. It gets, you know, you're just like, ugh, what am I on? 50? Oh my god. Okay, so the next girl, had a conversation with her. She seemed really nice, and
that's
you
one
know,
thing I love about these games with heavily defined roles is if I log into Here's a Storm tomorrow and it says win 3 games as an assassin, instantly I've narrowed down the field to about a fourth of the characters. I don't have to look at 30 characters and decide who I'm going to play. And I've got that, what, like 7 or 8, 10 maybe assassins in Here's a Storm. I can look at them and start really weighing the pros and cons about who I want to play right now. And then there's another quest that says they have to be Diablo assassins. Okay, well, now that's narrowed down even further. Like, to me, the cognitive resources it would have spent to just pick a character before I'm playing the game, it's so nice to have that decision out of my hands. There's this idea that supervillain monologues, take a drink, guys, but I'm going to say that sometimes humans don't want to have freedom. We just think we do.
Yeah. No, that's true. And there's a question of whether we even do if you're a determinist.
Yeah,
so,
Loki's right. Loki's right, guys. I'm saying it.
No, it's true. I mean,
is this not good? Is this not your natural state? Like, when he's got everyone bowing to him. Like, there is a way that we do feel better when we have that taken off our shoulders. We're like, okay, I've got 3 characters to choose from instead of 30. I'm happier.
There's 2 parts of human nature, right? There's when we make decisions and things go great and we get to celebrate that, and then when we make decisions and they go poorly and then we have to get punished for that. Like, we don't like that. Summarize that first one. You know, the things when things go great and we feel good. Well, great. Analyzing your exposure to a boss. A boss does that for you, right? So, or a leader or something is going to take the heat. Like, let's say tomorrow someone came to you, David, or the listener, and said, "Hey, here's the big red button. Will you nuke the Middle East?" You know, they just you know, did another 9/11, and you know, 95% of them were responsible for it somehow. Let's say they voted it in or something. Will you do it? Or even 100% still? And you're like, I don't know if I want to make that my decision, because if I'm right, maybe pretend that all the terrorism in the world was there, right? I could erase terrorism, but damn, all those people, millions of people's death on my hands. Like, we don't
Yeah.
want that decision. You're
Like, or to make
I
it
don't
more
want that. I don't
realistic,
want that one.
the position of department lead opened up like for new people who want to do it. Every 2 years, they open it up to new people in my department, which is foreign languages. I didn't apply. I don't want that job. I don't want to be responsible for how the entire department goes. That's a lot of pressure. I just want to be responsible for my little domain of teaching French. And so, yeah, having those decisions off my shoulders, it's really nice. It's really nice. And we've seen this in economics too. Like I hate that phrase, they've done studies, but I'm going to use it. They've done studies, right, where they'll take a menu, and instead of having 40 items on the menu, they'll have 3 items. And people seem happier when they have a menu with 3 items than with 40, because they don't like, oh, what if I order something bad? Or what if there was a better option I could have had, right? Like, there was a time in my life where when I went to Subway, I would only order the same sandwich because I knew I liked it, and I was worried about like wasting or Jamba Juice, right? There's one Jamba Juice I knew I really liked, but it's expensive enough where I'm not going to go there a lot, and I don't want to waste my Jamba Juice on a drink I'm not going to like.
Yeah, Gordon Ramsay talks about that whenever you open up a restaurant. He's got a bunch of reality shows, and one of them is, helping people turn shitty restaurants to good. 100% of the time, he's like, too much stuff on this menu. And they're like, how much do you want? He's like 7. And they're like, what? He's like, yeah, you can change them, over time. But here's the thing. A lot of people are like, what can I cook? What can I cook? I can cook this, I can cook this, I can cook that. Because you want to give your customer options. It's an assumption
Right.
that that's a good thing. But
Bad
as it turns out,
assumption.
no. The customer wants to go there and eat whatever you make best. Hopefully that's like 5 or 6 or 7 things. But if it's just one, don't open a restaurant. But pick your 5 or 6 or 7 best dishes that everyone loves and make that. Because that's kind of the thing. If I see a menu that has like 80 things on there, oh man, some of these
It's so stressful. I
It's
hate
gonna be
going to
good.
Panera because the menu's so long. I'm like, I don't know.
yes,
I guess I'll just get what I got last time because I knew I liked it.
some are good. Like it necessarily, they can't possibly make 75 dishes, right? You're like, I don't know. I mean, one of these I'm not gonna like for sure. Like that pimento
Right.
cheese one, that sounds pretty weird. I don't want that. What if there's another wannabe in here that I don't know? And what if it just sounds cool? Yeah, so you end up. It's best, in his opinion, and this is backed up by some data, that just to present them whatever you do best, and that way they'll feel sure that okay, well, there we go. Here's the best options. I like this.
And that's what these roll heavy games do, is they give you an easy way to limit your decision tree. Like, you're still making the same decision. Like, there's still 30 characters to choose from or whatever. Like in D&D 4th edition, there were like 20 something classes. It's still a complex decision, but you can do it in steps. You can do it like this. Do I want to play a striker, a controller, a leader, or a warrior? That's a multiple choice A, B, C, D question. You do that. Next step. Do I want to be an arcane? Do I want to be a martial? Do I want to be? You can take this list of 30 classes and you can break it down into 4 steps where you're choosing one, and by definition choosing not to play the other ones, and it just makes those decisions a lot easier to make. And I feel like that, even before you even start playing the game, is a more satisfying experience than just jumping straight in and saying, who do you want to be?
Definitely, yeah. That's kind of like the card game Sentinels of the Multiverse. Whenever I first saw it, I was like, I don't know. There's like 30 heroes, dude. What should I be? And I just almost asked for what are some good ones, right? I artificially narrow it down because you start showing them to us serially, and I'm like, these all seem like they could be okay. I don't know, man. And then you're like, oh well, this one's kind of like they do like shuffling stuff. This one's kind of a support a little bit, and this one's this one will shuffle your deck. So if you like that, play this. It was that kind of thing. Like, these over here are this kind of thing. They do like this one all kind of fulfill that kind of support role. This guy does heavy damage, and that's all he does. It's that kind of thing. I was like, oh, those are categories that I'm familiar with, and that help narrow down my search. So rather than serial consideration. But yeah. David? Still there? Oh man, I lost David. That's sad. That's okay. I think we were just about to wrap up. So let me just say this.
Hi.
Hey, dude, you're back.
Sorry, that time my internet flaked out.
Well, I know. I honestly thought that was myself. I went and refreshed my browser because I was like, "There's no way that was him."
I know. I was like, come on, Jeremiah, Mississippi. And then my Facebook grayed out and was like, your connection's been lost. I was like, what? It's been so long since that's happened.
Well, that's okay. I think we were just about to move into the feedback section anyway. So
Yeah, so I guess just like at the end of the day, if I have to choose, I don't know, let's make it official game theory proclamation. I think these roll heavy games are better but circumstantially better. I think if you don't know who you're playing with, it's better just to go with a role agnostic system. But if you are with your friends, and you guys all know what you're doing, I think it's a lot more. In my personal experience, I've had more fun having clearly defined roles.
Yeah. Well, all right. I guess. Do you want to just pass on then, or move on?
Yes, I want to move on. Definitely, I don't want to pass on.
I had something really cool I wanted to say.
Let's go for it. Listener feedback.
Listener feedback. All right, this is the listener feedback section, and right out of the gate, I want to say something really exciting. Holy shit! I just saw this, David.
What's up?
We have. Do you know who Cawthon Luck is?
No.
He's a Here's the Storm competitor, a pro gamer. He listens to the podcast. He just tweeted at us.
Oh, cool.
What the fuck? My mind is blown right now. Did I just make it big?
This is for those of you who don't follow esports. This is like if Scottie Pippen just like sent you a postcard.
I watch this guy's games and I'm like, dude, this guy's awesome. And I watch how he plays. Holy shit. I'm losing my mind right now, David. That's awesome. He said, shout out to Game 3 Pod, unique analysis on gaming. Enjoyed this recent episode on psychological resilience. What the fuck? Did I just lose my mind? hey, I might be seen by hundreds of millions of people this summer, maybe, if anything happens from that. And this is more exciting. So, that's awesome. Holy shit. Okay, so that's some feedback.
Nice.
Dude, Dustin Browder follows this guy. Dustin fucking Browder. You know who he is? Blizzard? He's the top dog at Blizzard.
Okay.
If he follows this guy. This guy listened to our podcast. What the? Okay, I'm done. All right. If you either get it or you don't, and if you don't, you're probably like, "Shut up, Jeremiah." What else? But if you get it,
exciting.
You're probably excited. Holy shit! I'm falling right now.
In other exciting news, we got a new iTunes review, 5 stars from Aboliak, and they say, "What to expect." The first time I heard this duo discussing a topic, I expected a dry analysis of win conditions, as most game theory lessons are about. Instead, I found a funny, engaging commentary built upon highly intelligent forethought and research. The type of games I had personally played and enjoyed. They bring the topic to life. This show takes the subject far beyond what it could be. There's a spark here that every good teacher aims for. The show is funny, relevant, and has fast-paced ideas where the listener enjoys not only learning about games and game theory, but psychology and literary analysis too. I must listen. Give it a try.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. The name Game Theory Podcast, mostly a pun because we're just theorizing about games. It's not actual game theory, which is a scholarly discipline of itself. But we do get some confusion from the name. We might have chosen a different name if we had thought this through, because a lot of people come here looking for just that kind of economics game theory discussion, and that's not usually what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that I might have rethought that as well. At the time, we really didn't think it would get big. So we literally started the podcast going, we have these conversations anyway. Let's just see what happens.
Let's just record them.
Yeah. And holy crap, now we're hit it big. Some pro gamer actually listened to me. Holy crap.
It's pretty exciting.
Losing my mind. But anyway. Cool.
Other feedback? Any tweeters? Any Twitters?
Just that one. We got more followers. I don't know when people keep following us, but I try to tweet occasionally. I did. I tweeted the NX thing, the NX release. Thought that was pretty cool. What else? That's pretty much it, man. I wish I was more about Twitter, but you and I are on the very edge of the millennials. So
yeah, we're old millennials.
Yeah.
We did get an email from Tom, and he says, "So I've been listening to the older episodes through YouTube Red, the ones that you can't get from podcast app. What can be tough with these are the times where there's connectivity issues, and one of you, typically David, will drop from the call, and there's 2 to 5 minutes of dead air while you get set back up. Then you restart and go back a bit for editing purposes. The last one I was listening to where this happened was the immersion episode, and it occurred right when you were discussing being pulled out of immersion. I was driving along and into the episode, then dead silence. It was so meta. It was funny because you were talking about being ripped from immersion, then unintentionally gave a great example. I found it entertaining. Thanks for putting together a great show and providing some really interesting topics. Many episodes have led me to playing games I wouldn't normally play and having more fun gaming. I even bought a Wii U, which I probably would never have considered doing after the countless reviews of praise for it, and have had a lot of fun. 5 stars. That counts, right? Aw, that's great. Thanks Thanks, Tom, and thank you, Nintendo. You should be thanking us because we're trying to get that number up over 10 million or whatever the sad result of your Wii U was. But for you guys who want to listen to the back episodes that aren't on iTunes or Sketcher because they're so old, if you just type Game Theory Podcast, you're going to go to our Libsyn page. It's got the entire back catalog up. You can download them yourself.
Yeah, definitely. That website is not the greatest either. We are good at what we're good at, which is the things according to our gaming and whatnot, and we are not good at.
Yeah,
I'm no good at aesthetics
analysis, but we're bad at web design and basically everything that you have to be good at to be good at podcasting. Paying taxes, all that stuff.
But yeah, so thank you for the feedback. Oh man, I'm still losing my mind about this.
Sound quality, we're bad at those as well.
Just making
in case you
words.
Figure that out from this episode.
I don't have together best words. Just that's why I started a podcast because I'm bad at putting words together.
Oh, it's like Rick and Morty, where's the football player? I'm a football player. You want to talk to someone who's good at words? You talk to a word maker.
Yeah, I throw footballs far.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So thank you for that. Definitely check that out. And I'm so happy you bought a Wii U. I really think it's the underrated system of this last generation.
Yeah, I really do. I was very skeptical when you told me to do it, but this thing is really cool. But you all heard that before.
So we do have an announcement as far as feedback goes. We Overwatch, the game we've been talking about a little bit on and off this episode, is out of closed beta and moving into open beta, and there is an early access phase, so it's like semi-open beta, I guess, for the open beta, and it will be starting any day now. I think today, actually. Is it May 1st?
It is May 1st, yes.
Okay, so if you want in on that early access open beta, we do have 2 codes that we can give away. There's no time to do a proper contest, so I'm just going to say, how about this? The first 2 people to email us at thegametheorypodcast@gmail.com, we will send you some friend codes so you can get in on the open beta.
Yeah, maybe we can throw it down together, man. I really enjoy that game. And that's one of those games where whether you're good or bad, let's say we get someone who's a friggin' pro or someone who's never played before, it doesn't matter. Like on that competitive game, it's there's
really a character for every skill level. So no matter how good or bad you are at these games, there's going to be a character you have fun playing.
Exactly. So yeah, sounds good, man. I'm glad you heard that.
Gmail.com. The first 2 people to write us, we will send you codes to get in to the beta, and we will be playing Overwatch until it comes out. I think end of May is when it actually releases. May 20th.
Yeah, I think so. The early beta is May 3rd.
So if you're at all interested in trying it out, email us. If you're the first 2 people, we will get you in.
All right, man. Well, let's wrap this bitch up. That was a great podcast.
Yes, despite our...
Sorry, go ahead.
I said despite our sound issues with you sounding like a drunk Cybertron denizen.
Did that happen a few times?
Yeah.
What the hell? You can't hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Dude, I'm sorry. All right. We'll let you go before it gets too bad.
All right.
See you guys.
Until next week, I'm David. This is Jeremiah, and keep on gaming.